Hello and welcome to Health Matters again on Channels Television. I am Mary Alale Yusuf. Medical and health personnel usually strive to keep you in good health, but there is a role for the patient in using and keeping medicines safely. Sometimes medication errors occur in hospitals, clinics, pharmacies, even at home. But if one is adequately educated about medicines, it's possible to discover mistakes in time and get intervention. The more information one has, the better prepared one is to avoid errors and handle medicines properly. Today we'll be looking at safe medicine use, and our guest on the show is Anthony Akhimien, a pharmacist and president of the Africa Pharmaceutical Forum, which is part of the International Pharmaceutical Federation. He's also a past president of the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Let me start by asking you, what qualifies a drug or a medicine to be called over the counter or otherwise?
Yeah. Drugs usually are classified under categories. The prescription ones, but now you refer to the issue of the over-the-counter. Over-the-counter drugs are drugs that have been used over time, and their safety margins have been guaranteed over time, so that the consumer can pick it without the advice of a doctor or a pharmacist, provided, again, is guided. Something like paracetamol, I mean, it's an over-the-counter drug. If you have headache, you have a right to walk into a registered pharmacy and pick one. And then, of course, if you are not better, then seek proper medical help. So the drugs that qualify over the counter are precisely those that have been tested, that have been used over time, and their safety margins have been guaranteed that they will not endanger life even when the consumer picks it without the advice of a practitioner.
That means then that prescription drugs can be dangerous to the patient.
Of course, it
Yet,
is.
a lot of the time, patients are always looking for ways to dodge getting a prescription. They want to get, instead of paracetamol, maybe they want diclofenac or something really strong.
This is why we said drugs are classified. For example, we have over-the-counter, the one you mentioned. We have the prescription ones, which they are drugs that must be dispensed when they are prescribed. And then you also have the pharmacist list, which he can use his discretion to give, provided he knows there's some safety margin there. This is the purpose of doing that. But in Nigeria, sometimes these things are undermined because of accessibility of the people to drugs. You find drugs anywhere in Nigeria, in the marketplace, at the bus stop. Even the prescription drugs can be found with people selling Granot or Colanol. For me, this is embarrassing, and it negates any human being's rights. And I think that we should learn to do the right thing, because there are laws that are prescribed for people not to pick or use all these prescribed drugs anyhow. But it's for the consumer to know his own right and go to a doctor, get a prescription, go to a pharmacy, fill it, and get the necessary advice before the drug is used.
Okay, but talking about over-the-counter drugs now, things like paracetamol, is it possible or can they be misused such that they become injurious to the person?
Precisely, they can be misused. I've said every drug is a poison, in quotes, a poison in quote. That is, when you see the amount that are prescribed, that are recommended by the manufacturer, it can endanger life. For example, if you take about 4 tablets of paracetamol, it can damage the liver. So,
just 4?
Yeah, 4 tablets. 6 tablets of paracetamol can cripple the liver right away. Therefore, if you are asked to use 2 tablets 3 times a day, follow exactly that. Do not say the headache is so bad, it's so nagging, therefore I should take 6 tablets. You're endangering your health. So even the over-the-counter drug, like I said, you still need to be guided. That's why such drugs, they are packed. I mean, you can pick a sachet of paracetamol, and then you take 2 tablets, and the headache is like going to go. And if it doesn't go, of course, you go to the next level of care. And that's the way to do. So it is not that over-the-counter drugs, they are also free. I mean, you can just pick them and use anyhow you like. But I just gave a scenario of paracetamol, which we all know is available in every home in Nigeria, anywhere in the world, and therefore it should be used with some caution also.
Okay, let me just paint a scenario for you, which I have seen several times. Many people, many mothers, believe that paracetamol syrup for babies is not as effective as the tablet because of the sugar that is put inside the formulation. So they say, well, you know, the baby was warm. I gave him 5 mils and it didn't work. So I've upped it to 7.5 and that's what I do all the time. Is this advice you're giving the same for the babies as well?
It follows. I've found that even in my practice where people come and say, oh, I gave paracetamol tablet to a child of 1 year. And I say, it's dangerous. You have no right to do that. Do not forget that in the syrup, we have kept some things there to make this drug available, which we call the vehicle diluent, to dissolve the product. And therefore, follow exactly that 5 ml. The headache might not, or the temperature might not just go down immediately. It takes some time for drug to exert its effect. It goes into the system. It has to be digested like food before it enters the pathway through the liver into the system. So drug is not something you take and you see the effect immediately. The only drugs you can take and see the effect almost immediately are those that are given by parenteral method, that is the injectables, which you give, it goes direct to the blood, direct to the liver, and is delivered. And you can see the effect manifest within minutes. But oral dosage drugs are to be taken, and you wait for some time.
And they must
for
be
it to
taken
dissolve.
as prescribed.
Yes, 8 hourly for paracetamol. That's what we recommend. And you should not go anything less than that, 8 hourly. To allow the drug to dissolve, enter the pathway, exert its effect, and leave the system in ways to go out from the system. But if you do below 8 hours, you're overloading the system, and the liver is endangered. That's the truth. The liver has to metabolize all drugs that we take, all chemicals. They must go through the liver. It's a very important organ in the body that has to help us detoxify some of these agents and send to the body to use and send the waste out through the kidneys and all that.
Okay, let me still stay with the timing. When it comes to antibiotics, some antibiotics, they say take 4 times a day. That means you have to divide 24 hours into 4.
6
so
hours.
It's every 6 hours.
Yes.
And the person is thinking, you know, well, I can't wake up at 2 a.m. and take a capsule. So what I'll do is I'll just take it 3 times daily. Or my next capsule is supposed to be at midnight, and I'm going to be asleep by that time. So let me just reduce it, take it at 11 and go and sleep. Is that dangerous too?
Well, that is why they need a pharmacist to guide them. If we say 6 hourly, it must be followed, and it's easy to obey. At 6 a.m. you take a dose. At 12 noon you take a dose. At 6 p.m. you take a dose. And at bedtime, 12 midnight, it's possible you are still awake. So if you spread it in that way, and why we give this advice that these agents will stay in the blood for like 6 hours. By the 7th hour, they are not there to fight the bacteria. That we call it the shelf life of the drug, or the timeline of the drug in the system. So when you take those drugs, it stays for that 6 hours. And if you take the blood and sample it, at the 7th hour, that agent is not enough to fight the bacteria. So you need to shoot up again with another dose to exert an effect that the bacteria are put under pressure to die. Otherwise, when you take it the way you like, twice a day or 3 times a day, you're giving room for the bacteria to begin to resist. In future, that drug might not be useful to you. And that's what we call part of drug abuse. So part of the issue of drug use is that you must follow the dosage regimen as prescribed and as given to you by the pharmacist or the attendant pharmacist, who is also trained to know a little of that.